Hey, welcome back to our channel. I wanted to talk to you about one of the episodes that we had on our Instagram reel in which we showed a fairly serious event that took place on one of our listings. If you go take a look at it, you'll find out it's the one where 5 days prior to settlement, the sellers had found somebody to purchase a gun safe that they had up on the second floor. It was some stranger or whatever from Facebook Marketplace. They put an ad out, said gun safe for sale. Somebody came up and said, hey, I'll give you whatever for it. And they came over to the house. They rented some device to help take large items like gun safes downstairs. In the process of bringing this safe, 400-pound safe, down the stairs, halfway down, it lost its balance and the safe came crashing down onto the stairs, down into the floor, into the wall that faces the stairs, and then projected out into the outside of the house. Take a look at the reel. It's pretty serious. And all this occurs 5 days before settlement. And settlement is very, very important for both these parties. The sellers really needed to settle on this property. And there were some underlying things going on in which we needed to get this transaction completed. The buyers, who were excited about moving into this house, into this neighborhood, their home was already under contract, and their home was settling about 5 days after the settlement of this property, and that settlement was going to take place. And if they were not going to be able to get into this home, they would find themselves technically homeless, which is not good for, a young family, young kids. Bad scenario, bad things, are all brewing as a result of this. So I get this call on a Saturday from the seller saying, hey, here's some video of something that just took place. What are we going to do? And immediately, I go take a look. I go over there and see that, the important thing, nobody was hurt. Okay, so first and foremost, nobody was hurt in this. It could have been a far more serious type of incident. Fortunately here, we're just talking about damage to property, which is all fixable. But you wonder, how do I get through a scenario like this? We're so close to settlement. Settlement has to take place. We got a lot of people who are depending upon either the money's being provided or the home being there because their home that they're selling is going under contract. And first and foremost, you have to keep cool, okay? Don't get all excited. Assess the situation, then let's figure out what the plan of attack is going to be. Clearly, there was damage that was to the staircase and to the flooring, and we were going to have to get some experts in, some contractors, to give us some estimates. This was probably not something that was going to be fixable in the time frame we had allotted. That's a given. So now this becomes a money situation. How can we determine what the cost is going to be to correct this? Can we define that and get that quantified by a legitimate contractor who we can trust that their estimate will be valid? Will the buyers understand and be accepting of the fact that they are the ones that are probably going to have to get the work completed? The money is going to be provided by the seller, but the buyer is going to have to engage the contractor and get the work completed. And the seller is going to have to really live with the fact that this is not going to be resolved easily by them getting somebody coming in to fix this, because it's not going to happen. They weren't necessarily had the capability to get the people in to do this, and they were already moving into another state. It was not going to happen. So it's going to be how much money is going to be part of a credit over to the buyers, and to get everybody to accept, what that amount was going to be, whether or not the estimate was legitimate, whether the buyers are going to accept that type of solution. So fortunately, we seem to get agreement among everyone. This looks like it's going to how we're going to be able to solve this. So we found a contractor. The contractor came in. I was there with the contractor. I was there with the sellers. I was there with the buyers. I was there with the buyer's agent. and the contractor's going and examining things. And it was a fairly significant level of damage, plus there were some unknowns. We saw some comments that were made on the reel about this looks like it's a fairly easy fix. Well, some of the things people don't understand, one, there was some concern that the actual stringers to the staircase may have shifted, because we could see there was a noticeable 1/8 inch or so shift downward. So when the safe fell down onto the stairs, the stringers that actually support the stairs may have shifted down. It was not going to be able to be easily seen until once you started taking the treads off and getting down inside and just making sure that that was not affected by the impact. So that was an unknown that had to be accounted for in the estimate. In addition, what people don't recognize in that video is that that flooring was throughout the entire first floor. And there was no extra flooring from when that floor was laid down. It was actually laid down by the previous seller. And it happened to be a discontinued color type or style. Because we called around trying to see, if we can get a couple replacement boards, because there's only a few boards that were damaged. Unfortunately, that was not going to be the case, and we ran the risk of having to actually pay for the replacement of the entire first floor, which would have been very, very costly and not a solution that anybody really was looking for. Fortunately, the upstairs hallway was of the similar flooring, and so what the contractor did in his estimate, he was going to pull boards from that upstairs flooring to make the match and replace the flooring that was down on the first floor, and he was only going to have to charge for replacing the floor up in the hallway. So it greatly reduced the cost. But those are some of the things that start adding up. In addition, the treads, that stairway is a fairly wide stairway. The treads, they were damaged beyond repair, and you may not be able to just replace one tread. You may have to replace them all sort of for the match. Same with the railing. So some of those things come into play. So we had the contractor in there with all the parties. We get agreement that we get an estimate back, and there's agreement this work looks legitimate. There was also another party there from the vendor of the device that had failed, and giving his thoughts as well, and watching over this to see, making sure that things weren't just being padded and putting on as extra costs. And we came to an agreement that it looks like this is the number. The buyers would be accepting of the fact that a seller credit would be sufficient to be able to get this repaired. The seller's credit was within the allowable amounts needed, or that there's limitations on how much credit any kind of loan can accept or property can accept based upon the loan and how much is being put down, things of that nature. That credit fell within that constraint. So we worked through agreeing on the estimate, the number, who's going to do the work, how we're going to satisfy the problem, and that the buyers would then get that all corrected soon after they moved in, and take care of it on themselves. So that is how we actually worked through all of that to get everything positioned so we actually could settle the property on time. So I think when you run into situations like that, it's important for, one, you notify everybody. As soon as I heard about this and saw the pictures, I sent them over to the buying agent and said, we've got a problem we need to address. You need to get your buyers informed. We have to make this home right for your buyers. They have equitable title into this. We have to try to find what is a reasonable solution that the sellers will also understand. It is the fault of the seller, and they're going to have to find some way to maybe recoup that, maybe through a homeowner's insurance claim or something of that nature. But in the interim, we need to get this addressed immediately and get the parties involved. Let's talk it through, and let's figure out how we're going to get this moving towards settlement, because settlement is vital for all these parties. And we were able to do that, and the buyers were satisfied. The sellers were, satisfied with the solution and like the fact that all this event happened. But that's besides the point. It did happen, so now we've got to be responsible for that. The buyer's agent was present, and he and I were discussing what's the best way for us to navigate through the mechanics of how we're going to do this, and we put together a solution. And we got the property settled. And the buyers have been able to move in, and the sellers moved on and have done their own thing. And that's what we have to do in many of these cases. So if you have any comments, or go take a look at that Instagram reel, we'll throw a link out there for that as well, so you can see what we're talking about as far as the context. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. That would help us understand if this type of content you want, so we can make more of it. So have a great day.